Scotty, when we wanted to, partner or buy Scotty's place, he was fielding offers from multiple people.
I'm sure he was.
And he chose us, right?
Yeah.
So like, I take a step back and say, why did he choose Dave and I?
I have some thoughts.
As opposed to that person or that
Right.
person or that person. And when I worked with him for 10 years, there's character and work ethic, right? And you can't turn it on in life when it's convenient for you. Like, you have to be doing that when no one's looking. So when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, and I'm busting my butt working for him, and I'm showing up, on time every day, and I'm, one of the harder worker employees there, and I'm the last to leave, and I'm, ethical and just have good character. That's what has served me well multiple times in life, is just doing what's right when no one's looking.
This episode is brought to you by Restaurant Systems Pro.
With excitement, allow me to introduce to you today's guest, CEO of Upstream Hospitality Group, James Bonanno. James, are you feeling unstoppable today?
Very unstoppable. Thanks for having me, Eric.
Dude, psyched to have you here. And, you guys came on my radar about 3 weeks ago. And it got my attention. I was like, there could be something here. And then not too long after, like a week later, Kathleen Wood reaches out to me. She's like, I have these guys. You got to get on the show. And when Kathleen Woods tells me I'm missing a story, I pay attention. So yeah. I made it happen. 3 weeks later, we're here. We're listening.
You make it happen. That was quick.
Dude, I can't wait to dive into your story. And, I just have a really good feeling that there's going to be some gold in today's discussions. So before we dive into who you are and how you got to where you are as CEO of Upstream Hospitality Group, let's get that motivational, inspirational ball rolling with a success quote or mantra. What do you got for us?
I got if you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
If you think you can or you think you can't, you're right.
Which is all about, yeah, exactly. Yeah. Henry Ford. It's all about mindset and attitude. From an early age, teenage years, personal development. I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad when I was 18. Yeah. That really kind of changed my life. And I kind of just, since then, I'm 39 right now, turning 40 in a couple months. So, for the past 20-something years, I've just really went really deep into personal development and just having a really strong, rock-solid mindset. So I just love that quote because, it's all between your ears.
Yeah, man. Rich Dad, Poor Dad, too, man. You just struck a chord with me. That book is game changer. I think that should be a part of, like, college reading, like freshman year, like mandatory. What was the big takeaway? How did that book influence you?
I
Get
always
right up on that mic, too.
I always had this entrepreneurial spirit as a kid, but I think reading that first week of college, which
is that when you listen?
Yeah, it was bad timing because I'm like, shit, I don't want to finish.
Why am I here?
I don't want to finish college. And there was some tough conversations with my mom, but I stuck it out and stayed in for 4 years. But I just knew right away that I was going to go pave my own path and be an entrepreneur. Yeah. And everything in that book is just, it made so much sense to me. And even the sequel, Cash Flow Quadrant, that which is really ironic because 20 years later, when I was 18. It was hard for me to conceive that, like, in that book, they talk about the differences between a small business owner or self-employed person and then, like, this big business owner, and how, one characteristic is a big business owner, as they've built a company and a team and there's systems and there's processes and all this stuff. Like the CEO, if they disappeared for a year, when they came back a year later, their business should be bigger and stronger. So at 18, I'm like, man, it's hard to conceive. But now I'm kind of in it right now, living it and seeing, as the company's growing and the team is stronger and there's more systems, I honestly feel like if I disappeared for a year, that I'd come back and it would be stronger and better.
I love that, man. I can't wait to dive in. So where does it make sense to start sharing your story? Because you graduate in 2006, right? A BS. From North Carolina, University of North Carolina, Wilmington?
North Carolina, Wilmington, down on the beach, but out north of Myrtle Beach. Great little, not little, it's growing like crazy, but town in North Carolina.
Are you destined to be a restaurateur at this point in your life? Have you figured it out?
I would say that restaurant and working in hospitality is the only thing I really knew. It was the only job I ever had in my life. Okay. Started working 13, 14 years old at my father's friend's restaurant, locally here in Long Island, doing every job in the book, whether it's bussing tables or washing dishes or bar backing or serving or bartending. So I did that my whole life. Through college, I'd come back to Long Island. I would bartend at some hot spots and stack a lot of cash and go back to college thinking I'm rich. And again, in college, knowing I was definitely going to do something entrepreneurial, there was something in the back of my hand in my mind that said, all right, there's like a 90% chance, like, the restaurant industry is going to be the thing I do, but, let me be open-minded and just kind of see if there's anything else that, really resonates with me. And ironically, my current partner in one of my brands, Bangobowls, with Ryan Thorman, we actually bought a advertising franchise when we were in our young 20s.
Okay.
And, right away, it didn't take long for either of us to realize, like, selling advertising, chasing around money. And
that's not Pipeline Media, is it?
It was actually all over media.
Oh, okay, got it.
Which was ironic because we were putting ads in the restrooms of restaurants. So there's still a tie to restaurants. But, I kind of knew right away that, the restaurant industry was something I wanted to explore. And
got it. So when did you cross paths with Ryan? Because I didn't see him on your radar as far as
I've known Ryan since I was probably 8 years old.
Oh,
okay.
Like
we were childhood
buds.
friends.
Yeah.
Known him my whole life. But and Ryan was an amazing sales guy. He worked for the New York Jets. He worked for the Madison Square Garden, top sales guy selling PSLs.
I have questions for him.
All these things.
Spoiler alert: Ryan's up next.
Yeah,
we're going to be talking to Ryan next.
Ryan's going to be a future guest.
So I did a little bit of research on the both of you, and his path was like, I'm like, how that from like sports entertainment to like the restaurant industry. So I have questions for him.
Yeah, a question. I'll talk a little bit about it, but I was more the hospitality guy.
Got it.
Bred my whole life, and at a young age, and just bartending. And when I was kind of like 26 years old, I was starting to have conversations with a guy I met recently bartending, who's my current partner right now, Dave Johnson. And then it just happened really fast. We were 27. Well, I was 27. I guess he was a little bit younger. And we opened our first spot, and that was the Taproom in Patchogue, New York.
Got it. So you graduate in 2006. What's going on between 2006 and 2011? Is this when you're kind of doing your side hustle with Ryan?
Yeah. We were doing all over media. I was still bartending. I was just trying to figure life out. I was young 20s, mid 20s. Had a short stint working as a business broker. You know what I mean? Just trying to figure out what business I really want to start.
So take us to that point, and like this, it kind of sounded like you were lost during this point. How did you get found? Is what I'm trying to figure out. Like, what happened? What was the tipping point?
I think it was, going back to Rich Dad Poor Dad. Like everything was very calculated. So like, this post couple years after college, I was like, I want to go buy a house. I want it to be multi-unit. I want to rent it out to my friends. I want to live for free. I want to cash flow. So like, I spent a year or so just bartending my ass off, making cash, bought a house.
Nice, dude.
And then it was like, all right, next step, let's keep stacking some cash to kind of figure out what business to open, and let's look for the right opportunity, and if it's a restaurant, which again I was that's the way I was leaning towards.
Was there part of you that was like, I don't want to do restaurants? Were you afraid of it? Because it sounds like it was there, but you weren't like, you're like, is that do I really want to?
I would say
it's a scary business. I wouldn't blame you if there was some hesitation.
No, I would say that I just know the demands of the industry, and look, I was always a hard worker. I'll work 80 hours a week every week, and I did that my whole life. So, but it was kind of seeing people I look up to, and I still do to this day, but they were successful, quote unquote mom and pop operators where the business just owned them.
Yeah.
Right, and they were scared to go on vacation for a week or 10 days because the business would implode, and that wasn't necessarily the life that I wanted to build. Where
this is my parents' life. This is why I started the podcast. Because like people should be able to own businesses and not be a slave to the business.
Exactly. So going back to that cash flow quadrant, we're saying like a lot of small business owners are really slaves to their business.
Yep.
And making that transition to a big business and more of a company where you're not. So. My young 20s, it was like, hey, is the restaurant industry definitely where I want to go down, even though I love it, and I love the hospitality part of it, and it was just fun, and it was always in me. So it was always 90% I'm going there, but I was like, before I put all my chips in and 100% dive into the restaurant industry, let me just spend a year or so and see if there's anything else I might want to do.
Yeah, man. So ultimately, you got sucked back into the industry. So how did you find the Taproom?
And very happy I did.
Yeah.
Like I said, I love it. It's treated me good. I've been able to do a lot of great things and give back, and it's just been a lot of fun. And I really feel like I'm just getting started. But we were just bartending. I was with my current partner Dave, and we were talking. In our current location, there was a restaurant in there that had just moved down the street.
So when you say your current location, this is where you were working, not owning.
No, so when I say current, I'm saying we still own it today.
Oh, okay.
It was our first location, and now it's vacant because the prior restaurant had moved down the street.
Got it.
And it was sitting there vacant for 5 months. And the place we were bartending at, our boss, the owner there, happened to be one of the owners of that restaurant.
Okay.
So it's just funny how fast it happened because I'm talking.
So it wasn't planned out or anything.
It wasn't planned.
Nice.
It was hey, let's call Scotty and see what's going on with the old place.
Your old boss.
Yep. And we call him, and he said, "Meet me in 10 minutes." So we literally went and met him. He's like, "Look, I've been paying rent for 5 months. I really got to figure out what I'm doing. I got to figure out what I'm doing with this place. All the licenses are still active and current.
Nice.
Like technically, we could open tomorrow." So he's like, "What's your concept?" And this is early 2011. So like craft beer was like really just starting. Maybe a restaurant or two locally had an IPA on tap, but not real.
Yeah, it was Bud Light, Yingling, or Coors.
Yeah, there wasn't
in a beer hall.
And IPA wasn't easy to find. Forget a double IPA,
Right.
So we were like, look, we want to do this. We think this craft beer thing is going to start growing. Like, let's do craft beer, and we want to do like pub food, bar food, but not have it be the afterthought, not frozen food that like you go into a bar and then like, oh, I'm hungry, let me just get some mozzarella sticks or jalapeno poppers.
I was just thinking poppers, dude.
You
literally took the words out of my mouth.
And so like, let's make bar food, but let's make it the best damn bar food you've ever had. Like, let's make everything in-house, which, fast forward to 2023, it's kind of more popular today.
Yeah.
And the norm and the standard, but early 2011, that really wasn't the case. So, the focus on food was important from day one. It's only intensified, 12 years later. But so talking to Scotty, he said, do you guys have any money? And we looked at him and said yes. We actually had maybe $500 combined.
I thought, what happened to all this money you're putting away? You spent it on the house?
Put it on the house, exactly. Bought the house.
You had collateral.
Yeah, exactly. So, we really had no money. And, we went in the other room, and because Scotty said, look, we don't want to sell it to you guys, but we'll partner. So we went in the other room, and we're like, look, we're both front of the house guys. We're bartenders. The other partner was a chef. We're like, we don't know how much money we need, but whatever we need, now we only need half of it because we're only going to own half. So let's just chalk this one up as a learning experience. In a year or two, maybe we'll sell to them and we'll go off and do something else.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the thought process, and everything happened so fast. They were like, all right, you need like $100,000 or something. So let's meet next week. Let's close and we'll open in 2 weeks. And we just looked at each other and we're like, shit, this is happening.
I love it though. So tell me more about Scotty. Was he, how long were you working with him before?
I worked for him for 10 years.
Okay.
So I knew him, and I'll get more in the story now, but we're actually partners in a business right now. Yeah. So I'd known him 10 years. We had a great relationship, and he said, let's partner up. And we did. And those first 2 years were good. It was a small little place at the time. Now we've since, put a second floor, put an outdoor patio. So now it's bigger and does real numbers. But at the time we were just starting, we were just young guys learning how to be business owners and entrepreneurs. And after 2 years, fortunately, those guys were like, this is really your thing. You want to buy us out?
Nice.
And we were like,
I was wondering if that was on the table.
Yeah. So after 2 years, we bought them out very amicably. We're still friends with both of them to this day. One of them, Scotty, we're still partners with in another business. And that was the start of the Taproom. And really, even with the name, there was really about 20 minutes of thought of a name because everything just happened.
It's right there.
Everything just happened so fast.
Yeah.
So fast forward now.
It's a great name though because it describes exactly what you're doing. Back in 2011, I feel like it was a great name. Maybe now there's a lot of competition for that.
Yeah, so I look back and I say that the name has served us very well in the sense of exactly what you said. Like, you come to town, you hear Taproom, like
you know what you're gonna get.
You know what you're getting, right? You're coming to this place where you're going to have probably a great selection of craft beer, which we do. You know, we rotate a lot of beers in. You're probably going to have some good pub fare, which we do. But what we're finding now is as we're growing and scaling, and you know, every brewery in the country calls their bar their tap room. Where, you know, there's a tap room in every corner. I have a lot of friends who go on vacation and they always send me pictures. Hey, I'm at this tap room, and I'm always just like, oh man, you know. So we're actually doing just a slight tweak, which we'll be announcing probably in the next month or so.
Okay.
So it'll be very similar because we have a lot of brand identity and recognition, and we want to retain that, but we just want to have something a little bit more identifiable.
I'll tell you what I'm curious about, and this is the relationship with Scotty and how it evolved over time. A lot of people, they ask me, you know, hey, like, I want to get into the industry. Like, I want a mentor. I need a mentor. I'm like, well, what are you doing to find that mentor? And like, what is your advice? Before I unpackage, I want to know. If somebody came to you and like, hey, I'm looking for a mentor, what would your advice be?
Well, you know, I'd say when you mentioned Scotty, you know, if I go speak to high school students or college students, you know, this is part of what I tell them is when I look back on certain stages of my career, Scotty, when we wanted to, you know, partner or buy Scotty's place, he was fielding offers from multiple people.
I'm sure he was.
And he chose us, right?
Yeah.
So like I take a step back and say, why did he choose Dave and I?
I have some thoughts.
As opposed to that person or that person or that person. And when I worked with him for 10 years, you know, there's character and work ethic, right? And you can't turn it on in life when it's convenient for you. Like, you have to be doing that when no one's looking. So when I was 16, 17, 18 years old, and I'm busting my butt working for him, and I'm showing up, you know, on time every day, and I'm, you know, one of the harder worker employees there, and I'm the last to leave, and I'm, you know, ethical and just have good character. That's what has served me well multiple times in life, is just doing what's right when no one's looking.
Yeah, man. And you know, to kind of round off that idea of how do you find a mentor, it's like my answer would have been to go find somebody that you respect and admire and you want to work for them, and then go do exactly what you just said. Be the first one there, the last one to leave, show up all the time, grind, show them your character, show them your work ethic, and be valuable to them.
Exactly.
Be an asset.
Exactly.
And when you are of value to somebody, when you're an asset to somebody, they're going to treat you well. They're going to share information with you. They're going to take you in, you know? So
exactly. You just got to put in an extra effort. And that's where that whole Upstream mentality name come from. Like, you know,
I was curious about that.
It's a funny story. You know, I'm sitting there for a couple years, like really trying to think of like a great hospitality name. And I was actually on vacation in the Virgin Islands with my whole extended family. It's like 20 of us sitting around a table, and we're just chatting, and I'm saying, like, look, if you want to be successful in life, and whether it's in business, whether it's in sports, relationships, like anything, there's either content out there where you can go learn, and then couple that with just putting in that extra effort. So I'm like, look, you know, the reason why someone's average is because they're just not either looking for that education or they're not putting the effort. So like, I'm like, they're going down. It's easy to go downstream. Like the masses go downstream, where if you really want to achieve greatness, you got to you got to fight the current, and you got to go upstream.
Yeah.
And when I said upstream to my family, I go, that's it.
Yeah.
And they're like, what's what? I'm like, that's the hospitality name. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, I want to build a company and a workforce where everyone has this upstream mentality, where they really just, you know, want to be great, and they're willing to do what it takes to be great.
And I think when I think of upstream too, I think it trickles up, you know, like from like if you have like a flipped hierarchy, right, where you're at the bottom.
Yeah.
It all trickles up, and that's exactly what Scotty did for you. And like it trickled up. He created opportunity for you, and that's the way it should be. And this is really what I'm trying to make an example of on the show is, listen, like it's not about how can I win. It's how can I create a community of people winning.
Exactly. I love that.
Yeah. And when you do that, I'm sure Scotty got a really good like deal. He had two partners that he knew, liked, and trusted, who he knew that you guys had the same values and work ethic because he taught you, right? Or at least his organization taught you.
Exactly.
And then from there, you know, like you just keep on paying it forward. It just keeps upstream trickling up, right?
You got it.
So I love that. I love that name. I think it's spot on, man. So I am curious about like what was the negotiation like for this first location? Do you think he was fair with you on the deal? I mean, he is your friend. I don't want to like bring out dirty laundry, but like, what advice do you have for somebody going into an ownership structure for the first time when you have partners and you kind of need those partners?
Yeah, it was. I know, and again, this is going back and really thinking about things from a long time ago that I haven't thought about in a while, but. Yeah, it was fair. I mean, technically we weren't really buying his business because he took his business and he, moved it down the street. So there was some people a little bit older than me who are like, hey, just be careful. Like, what are you really buying? Like, you're buying access to a lease. Like, yeah, granted, there's some furniture and some kitchen equipment, but like, what are you really buying? And, if I listened to some of those people, I maybe wouldn't be sitting here.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, I would say, yeah, it was fair. It happened quick. We needed like $100,000 or so. It wasn't a ton of money, but at the time it was a ton of money.
Yeah. I will say this, and you were in the position where you don't really have the leverage in that situation. He's giving you an opportunity, and he was probably covering his ass a little bit in case you find out you don't want to be an owner. And
again, there was value there. I mean, there was a full kitchen. There was a kitchen. There was a bar. There was all the things that cost money when you open a place. Restrooms, fire. All that stuff. So
and the licensing, the permits.
Yeah, like,
that's huge.
Like we were ready to go. So it wasn't like we weren't buying anything. And that's kind of what I told those other
path of least resistance
naysayers. Like, no, I am buying something.
And a partner that like, and trust, and who has a track record of success.
Yeah, and they were both. Him and his partner both were about maybe 10, 15 years older than us.
How old were you? 26, 27?
Yeah, okay. Exactly. So, that's
when this was going down. You're not 26 now.
Right. I'll be 40 in a couple months. So, they were, they both had owned multiple restaurants. Scotty had owned a lot of restaurants in his day. And, they were guys who knew what they were doing and successful. And like I said, Dave and I were like, let's just chalk the first one up as learning, and then we'll go figure out a brand and go grow that. We didn't really know or realize that initial one would have been the one that we were most excited about and really growing, and ended up buying them out. So
yeah, I can't wait to get into the evolution of the Taproom. But like, is there anything else that's worth unpackaging in your come up, key lessons, things you can pay forward to, and whoever's listening to this?
Yeah, I think when people are maybe dreaming or want to open their first restaurant, like the biggest mental hurdle I think in their mind is finances and money. And it's like, how am I going to do this? I have no money. And someone today, when I tell that to whether it's employees of mine or people seeking advice to open their own restaurant, I say that, I know they look at me like, hey, it's easier for you to say, or like easy to say now, but you got to remember, I was there. I was in your shoes. I had very little money because I just spent it buying that house. So I say don't let money be the thing that stop you. Like, show that you have that character and work ethic, and like you're gonna work. You'll work until the last day before you let an investor lose $1, and just gain as much knowledge and experience in the industry as you can. So you're coming at it from an angle where you're bringing some expertise. But we left that meeting, needed some money, and we just started hitting the streets. And I just started asking friends and family, like, can I borrow $10,000? And I'll pay you 10% interest only. Let me know when you want your $10,000 back. Is it 3 months from now, 9 months from now, 2 years from now? And enough people,
prorate it.
Enough people said yes to lending us, 10 or 15 or 20 grand.
So you didn't have to get money for the whole restaurant. You just need to get in money for half the restaurant.
Yeah, it was like $100 and something grand that
you had to raise on your own.
That we had to raise on our own.
Can't do that today.
Yeah.
So I feel like I want to give a shout out to this company that I literally just interviewed yesterday. They're called Mainvest, and they're based out of Salem, Massachusetts. And what they do is they offer framing. So if you want to go find investors, people who are literally going to give you the money, but then they're going to get paid back over time. So like it's basically like if you wanted, like it's a way for local community to invest in local community.
Okay, interesting.
So it's a great tool. I mean, like you use it to like go through, and you start with friends and family, right? You recruit them first, but this platform provides the framing for you to actually allocate the funds and to keep you accountable and all that stuff. But it's almost like crowdsourcing meets venture capitalists.
Very cool. I got to check that out.
Yeah, it's really cool.
Sounds cool.
But if anybody who's trying to go through this right now, it's a great tool, and I want to see this company be successful. It's called Maindesk. There will be a link in the show notes. I am going to become an affiliate of this company, so I'm just throwing that out there too. This isn't completely selfish, but I truly believe in what they're doing.
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
But do check that out. So, all right, now I think is a good time to take a break to thank our sponsors, and we'll be right back to talk about how you scaled Taproom to 5 locations and opened Bangobowls, which is now at 5 locations and your franchise.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
We're back. So take us through opening to scaling.
Sure.
What was that like?
Sure. So I'll say that, those first 2 years we're still partners with Scotty and John, and, they were still handling a lot of the business side of things. So when the day they were like, do you want to buy us out? All of a sudden, like all the, accounting, bookkeeping, insurance, like all that type of stuff just instantly fell right on my lap. So that, that kind of going into our 3rd year, that was like, all right, I got to really learn. I'm not just like managing a shift anymore. Now I'm actually running the business. So, that was the first step. And then, those first, handful of years, Dave and I were the in-house managers. Like we didn't have a management team. One of us was there every day building a business, shaking hands, in the community. And, we knew we wanted to grow. We didn't really have a defined vision, like this is what we're doing. We do now, but at the time it was like, all right, let's try to open another location. So so
on day 1, you're saying let's open another location. How long did it take?
I think it was more like in the 3rd year, maybe going into the 4th year. Like, all right, let's start looking at opening another location. Let's look into buying our building that we're in.
Yeah.
So around the same time we bought our building. We were just busting out the seams. Like we were, it was only a couple thousand square feet, but we were just almost too busy, right? Like it was just like every day. It was just like.
So was it a success out of the gates?
Yeah, I would say it was pretty successful out of the gates, and it didn't take too long to really be filling the place because again, it was only like 2,000 square feet.
What besides the concept being a good concept and having that be a trend at the time, what do you think made it a success?
I think it was one, the quality of the food, right? So it was just great comfort food that was just pub food, but done in unique ways and care, and we dressed, we'd make our own mac and cheese bites, and we would dress it up like a really amazing aioli on it. So just a lot of great flavors there, and then the beer we would have 27 taps I think it was, and we were just getting really hard to find beers and one-offs and triple IPAs, at a time, in 2011, 12, 13, that, we were almost helping educate the market. Like, hey, this is what good beer's about. And, we put on a beer festival, and, we were just like, let's educate as much people about beer, because if they actually, if their taste buds change from drinking Miller Lite to drinking an IPA, well, at the time, it wasn't easy to find IPAs. So like, we're going to get people to come to us. So like, that was obviously, that has totally changed. But in the early years, that was our focus. And we just built this really casual, come as you are, accommodating, acoustic guy playing music, just like chill, laid back vibe, which is still kind of our MO today. But, it just really worked. So I think in like our 4th year, we ended up buying our building. We put an extension, we added a 2nd floor, we added a patio, so now that original small location sits at like 4,700 square feet.
So when you bought this building, was that also when you paid off your partners?
Yeah, so like it was. So
swing that mic to your right.
It was
swing it. Yeah,
there you go. So the funding and stuff never, it just, the numbers got bigger and keep getting bigger.
It's always a good problem.
Right, so it's like, now I don't need this, now I need that, and now we're making some, but not that much, and we want to do this faster. So let's go source, hundreds of thousands, not 100,000, or let's go source $500,000. So it was a lot of friends and family in the beginning. So
this is the 2nd round of funding.
Yep.
Did you pay off all the people that gave you the money in the first place?
Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, we did.
That's always a good feeling.
Yeah, and that's and that was really important to us, was if you said you wanted your money back in 9 months, well, we were managing, we were bartending, we were doing whatever we could to make sure that you got your money back exactly when you said. That the reputation with borrowing was very important to us.
Yeah.
And still is.
So you have your partners, you get the funding for half, you pay off your investors. When did you pay off your partners? When did that happen?
That was pretty much right. After that second year, they wanted to buy us out. We gave them, I can't remember exactly, but I think we gave them like half the money, and they held the other half for a couple of years. And I remember now it's bringing up memories. They put in something there that we weren't allowed to open a second location until we paid them off.
Oh, really? Well,
So-
that's smart though.
That was smart on their part. So now I totally
It made you
forgot
pay them
about
off,
that.
huh?
But yeah, so now when we want to open a second location, we're like, all right, we got to pay out those guys first and then go do it.
Because that's a liability, and you want to pay off your liabilities before you start adding assets.
Yeah, so
Rich dad, poor dad.
exactly. So that's what we did. And our first location, Dave and I, it was kind of close to our hometowns. It was a town that just got a lot of state funding, major revitalization, and became kind of a model for a lot of other towns on.
This is Westbury?
This is Patchogue.
Okay.
So the town, between craft beer really growing, the town really growing, Dave and I being local, we never had any doubts, but Dave and I were like, are we this busy because all these things are coming together, or if we went and did this where we know nobody, are we still going to, have the same success? So we went about a half hour west of us. Neither of us knew anyone. We opened the gates, and it was just like flooded in. Like
Nice.
even that first week was, I still think, the busiest week we've ever had. It was just like every day was a Saturday for like a couple weeks there, and that location has just been amazing since. And that was 8 years ago. That was 2015. So once we did that, the confidence was really there, saying, all right, we got something that people really love. We're putting out a product that people enjoy, and, let's keep growing this thing.
So any growing pains?
Yeah, there's been plenty of stresses financially. We've always been guys who are just like, let's just go and commit, and we'll figure it out as we go.
I get that.
So, there was times where, we were building out a location, and, or, we were maybe going for like an SBA loan that was taking a little bit longer than we anticipated, but we already started construction, or like, we needed funding earlier, and, the bills start coming and the loan hasn't closed yet.
Oh.
And, so like some of those, stresses, but, we always got through it and managed. And, I would say that one thing that we've really learned, and Kathleen Wood was kind of the one who helped, was just focus.
Yes.
So
one thing. What's your one thing, James?
Yeah, and it came at great timing because I was about to open a taco concept right before I started working with Kathleen about 2.5 years ago, and she was like, you have two amazing brands, like let's just focus and scale these. And I was like, you know what, it's so easy, and when I take a step back, it's so easy to see that, but there was things we did along the way, whether it's opening this, we opened like a kind of a tapas cocktail bar, but it was too small. It was really popular, but it was just too small, and I just couldn't make the money. It was earlier in our career where we weren't established enough with the systems and the processes, and just the knowledge of where we are today to have like a portfolio restaurant where we weren't hands-on. Like we just weren't ready for that at that time. And ironically, it was right when Bangobowls started, so we opened Bangobowls and that restaurant like the same week.
So this is like 2016.
This is like 2000. Yeah,
17 is when.
17. It was January of 17, I believe.
Got it.
And we opened Bangobowls and this restaurant at the same time. And like I said, the restaurant.
Talking about the taco joint.
No, this was it was called Flight.
Got it.
And it was very busy on the weekends. It was more of like a date night spot. It wasn't as busy as we thought, during the week. But we never really gave it a chance. We sold it after 5 months.
Wow.
And
was that because of Kathleen's Wood coming?
No,
in?
this is way before Kathleen Wood. It was really we were like, we just did the same amount of sales 5 doors down at Taproom during happy hour than we did here on Saturday night, and we had a 3.5 hour wait for dinner. It was just like we couldn't turn tables.
Yeah,
we couldn't turn tables, and and the price per head, just for a place that small, and like the chefs we had to have on salary, like the economics didn't work. So it was just a learning. Like if that place was twice the size, it'd probably still be open and it'd probably be one of our best places right now. But it was just kind of too small and bad timing for us. And at the same time, we opened our little Bangobowls that was tied to our taproom in Massapequa. It was, the original Bangobowls was 300 square feet.
Okay.
And we were selling acai bowls and smoothies out of there. And
this is in 2017. 17? Okay.
And it was snowing, and we had a line down the street, people standing in the snow, and I was doing more sales just selling acai bowls and smoothies out of a 300 square foot store than.
So it started as like a pop-up, essentially, almost.
Yeah. It was just really it was attached to our kitchen in our tap room, and we're like, didn't think we'd ever really grow. Same thing, we didn't think we'd really grow or scale it, but we were like, hey, we got this space, let's sell some acai bowls out of there. And then they were amazing bowls. I think you just had one, right?
I'm still eating it. If you guys hear some chomping in the background, it's because he's talking about
it was just exciting because it was really busy. I'm coming from running full service restaurants, so I have all these vendors, I have all these job roles. It's just a lot of moving parts. And then I look over here and we have one product, 2 job roles, and we're doing some serious sales, and we're like, all right, I think we should grow this thing too.
Yeah.
So but
do one thing really well.
So so just going back to with Kathleen Wood, she was like, let's just focus on these 2 brands. So like I look back in my earlier years, and I wish that's probably the one thing I wish I had more awareness of 10 years ago was if you have something working, just double down on it and focus. Yeah. I mean, we were putting on beer festivals, we were opening this restaurant, we're doing that. It was just too much stuff.
The analogy I like to use, I think people think, they have their head down, they get traction with something, and they think, okay, growth is outwards. I need to look beyond what I have for growth. And I think the opposite is true. If you've got something that works, put the energy into how do I make this work even better? How do I make this work so I don't have to be here? How do I put systems and processes? What is our culture? How do we keep that culture? How do we cement it? Like what is working and make it work better? Put that energy in, and then you have scalability, right?
Exactly.
And then now it's about building people, not running the business and creating opportunity, upflow.
Exactly.
And that's upflow.
Upstream.
That doesn't sound right. But man, it's perfect. I love it.
Yeah. So focus is something, we're really, trying to just pay attention to, and, as we gain a little more success, right? Like there's more opportunities come our way, and hey, do you want to do this, or do you want to partner on that? And we're just really staying focused right now.
Yeah. So let's go back. I love what you're giving us, but I kind of want to unpackage between 2011 and 2000. What you said, 2 years you opened your second location.
It was actually our 5th year. So it was I guess like 4.5 years. It was so we opened our second location, and it's funny because I talk a lot about delegation now, and because when I talk to people and they're like, oh, you're running 16 restaurants right now, like how, like I can't even run 2 or I can't run 3, and I'm like, well, you're actually like in that really bad spot where 2 is pretty hard and 3 is like impossible if you don't learn how to delegate. And I really think back when Dave and I, when we opened our second location, there's things we said to each other that sound funny today, but he was like, I have to be the one who orders the beer. Like no one knows the craft beer market like I do, and if I don't order the beer, then we're gonna have bad beer, and then we're gonna go out of business. And I'm like, yeah, and I gotta book the acoustic music for Friday happy hour. What if the manager books a bad acoustic guy and then our happy hour sucks, and then we go out of business, right? So it was like, I laugh now, but it was like real things we actually said, and we just had to keep control. So I think there's a lot of business owners and restaurateurs out there who, maybe have 2 or 3 locations, or worse, they go a little farther and they don't give up that control, and you're only one person. Right, like you can only be in so many places at once. You can you only have so much bandwidth. So if you don't learn how to delegate, you're really gonna have a tough time.
So get into details on how you learned how to delegate. Get specific. Like what was that evolution of being able to delegate for you like?
I think coming to terms that if I was running my restaurant like Dave and I did the first few years, then like everything is going to be 100% to our standards because we're the ones doing it and we're the ones there. But I think for us, it was just learning that, hey, if we have to be okay with this might be running at 90% of like what we would do. But if we have multi-units and we have 5 of those or 10 of those or 50 of those or 100 of those, like, we still are passionate and set those standards and have high standards. But you got to understand that, that example, like, all right, that manager might put on that beer. Maybe you wouldn't have chose that beer, but guess what? That beer is going to be totally fine.
Yeah.
Everything's going to be okay.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's accepting and understanding that the world's not going to crumble if it doesn't go exactly the way you would have done it. But you're also, in giving up that responsibility, you're handing somebody responsibility, and somebody having responsibility and being able to be seen for what they're doing gives them purpose. You know?
And that's where we are today. It's like, really developing our team and our leaders, because as we grow, we want them to grow with us. Right. So it's, empowering people, showing them what they can do and how they can delegate down to their teams as well. And it's just, everyone can level up.
Where were your systems at this point?
I think opening, there wasn't many, right. Kind of going into our second location, but it was around then that the conversation started to be had that, hey, we don't necessarily want to be slaves to the business. Like, we want to be able to go on a week or two vacation and know that everything's totally fine. And just looking around saying how there's chains out there with hundreds, thousands of locations. There's no owner in it, and we're doing the same thing. So, let's really learn, what they're doing and really learn how to build a company, not just run a restaurant.
Where'd you go to learn how to do this?
So I think originally, whether it's at some kind of trade shows, you go into some workshops and listening to some of the speakers, and I think back a long time ago with David Scott Peters and Fred Langley, and looking at their Restaurant Systems Pro, and that was one of the first techs we really engaged with and learned a lot from those guys. And for the first time, we started really tracking our inventory and recipe cards and learning how to forecast, which for me, I saw was one of the biggest differences between a mom and pop restaurant and really a larger chain is, the mom and pop is just very reactive. You're just every day you're just reacting to really what's happening in the moment or what happened yesterday. You really don't know your numbers, as opposed to a chain where, it's your business should be very predictable, based on, historical data, and you should have a relatively good idea of what you're going to do in sales today or next week or next month. And when you're putting the effort in to really look forward, then it just allows you to really get more in touch with your numbers, whether that is, your purchasing or staffing and labor. So, Restaurant Systems Pro back then was like really the first thing we dug into.
You're not with Restaurant Systems Pro anymore. You recently switched. But I will say this. I don't think, and they are my sponsor, and hopefully they're still my sponsor after this statement. I don't think Restaurant Systems Pro is for everybody. I think it serves best people who are where you were at in 2016, where you're like, we need systems, and we aren't systems people. So instead of us trying to build systems from the ground up, let's go outsource our systems and build our business around proven, tested systems.
Yeah, I'll say I have nothing but great things to say about Restaurant Systems Pro. I think there's a lot of listeners right now that should 100% call them today and engage. We learned a lot. I went all in with them, and they consulted, and they came in and really helped me, build out, my shelf to sheet and my inventory, and again, build out my recipe cards and forecasting models. And it was really great. Just recently, we were, switching for some accounting reasons, but they have a great product, and more importantly, they have a great community.
Yes, I was going to say the community and the support, the customer support. These are restaurant people who are serving restaurant people. They understand what support does. Exactly.
There's some great restaurateurs using Restaurant Systems Pro, and I really met a lot of great people over the years, using their system, and that I'm still friends with, today.
Yeah, I mean, I have no problem being honest with how I think I'm right there with you. I think they're a great company, but I think
Restaurant Systems Pro is ideal for somebody who has something, who isn't a technology system oriented individual that wants a one-stop shop for all of their restaurant system solutions. I will say this, as you start growing to like maybe 20 or 30 locations, or if you have plans to grow beyond that and you have fast casual concepts that do better with more digital presence and stuff like that, it might make sense to evolve to a different platform, you know? But there are a lot of people that fit that characteristic of, hey, we have 2 or 3 locations. We want to scale beyond this. We are having trouble locking in your systems. They're going to hand you a blueprint.
Yeah.
80 systems on a systems board that you plug into your business. There's no way you're doing that on your own as effectively.
Yeah, and they have great support and they really hold your hand, so that's a big part of it.
So, I mean, I did not know that you use Restaurant Systems Pro before coming in here. That was news to me. So that's interesting to hear that they help you get to this point.
Absolutely.
So that was like 2016 you started using Restaurant Systems Pro.
Yeah, maybe 17.
17? So
maybe 16.
Okay. So it's ironic that this is also when you start scaling pretty quick too.
Yeah, exactly. So,
coincidence?
Not at all.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. It was the focus on really focusing to get systems, get processes, understand our numbers, and that was the start to really growing. And then COVID happens, and then COVID was even more confidence. Like right now, we're really ready to scale. That's when we engaged with Kathleen Wood. In the past few years have just been amazing working with her.
So in 2017, you have 2 Taprooms, and you spin off Bangobowls from like a little like adjacent space next to your second bar.
Right, exactly.
I love this idea of starting small. Get into why. What was your approach? What was going through your mind when you opened? So the third location for you was technically Bangobowls, correct? As far as businesses go.
Yeah.
Technical third.
Technically,
2 Taprooms.
We had the one we closed, but yeah. So
okay, that's right. Technically the 4th. Any lessons from the closure? I mean, we kind of got into that a little bit, but there's like just the economics of it was the big takeaway I got.
Yeah, just the economics. I really. It was a great concept. Like, I would give someone the keys today and say, hey, I think you'd be very successful with this concept. But, just the economics. It was just we weren't turning tables like we thought because we were giving people an experience. It was, we were doing flights. We were doing all the different wine flights. We were doing like a gin and tonic flight where there's 3 different gin and tonics. We're doing food flights. So there was like 3 lamb chops, 3 baby lamb chops.
It's a lot of education on your staff too.
Yeah, and, we needed talent to execute that, and we needed... So it was just the talent we needed in such a small space, people, really staying and enjoying their time. We just couldn't turn the table. So the economics there was definitely, a big learning curve. And then, with Bangobowls, it was, I would say, we opened that first one. It was extremely successful. So we were like, all right, let's go open a few of these like right away. And we did that pretty quick, trying to be first to market. And
that was a hot time for the acai bowl movement.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
you got the Taproom movement, and now you got the acai bowl movement.
Yeah, and exactly. And Bango is involved. Acai's, not even our largest seller. We're more salads and grain bowls now. So it evolved over time. Ryan, I'm sure Ryan will talk more about that. Yeah. But we just opened really quick. So I kind of tell some people right now, friends who are kind of scaling brands, and they're just go from 1 to 5 units in like 18 months. I'm telling you should slow down, get some systems, get some processes, understand your brand, know your customer, do all that first before
Lock
you really
in your soul, your identity.
Yeah, exactly. Like don't be so quick to scale. Like I'd say get it right first and then go.
So when you open Bangobowls in this adjacent space, was there a strategy? Were you trying to test the market, or why? Like why Bangobowls?
I think that acai bowls were just starting to become popular.
Because you don't think Taproom and acai bowls.
Yeah, I mean, the brands are totally separate. We just had this really small space that was like 300 square feet, so wasn't large enough to really build a kitchen or anything. The Taproom kitchen was already kind of too taxed. Like they couldn't pump out any more food. They were really busy, so it was just like, all right, this is a cold product that just needs a low boy and this freezer, and we can crank out bowls. And then, like I said, all of a sudden, just a demand, like a line down the street, and we were just selling them like crazy.
So did you guys have your own door? Was this like a whole
Yeah.
separate brand?
Yep, own door.
Storefront?
Yep.
Got it.
Totally branded, separate, and no access from inside Taproom. So it was separate.
So from opening the first location in this adjacent space to second location, how much time elapsed?
Maybe 8 months, I think. Yeah.
How'd you know you were ready?
I don't think we were. But again, it was
Trying to just beat the market.
Yeah, trying to beat the market, and we just opened a bunch of locations, and we had to take some time to step back.
Were you guilty of your not taking your own advice?
Oh, totally, and that
Yeah.
and that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
That's what I've lived and learned. So I wouldn't have that advice if
Get into the pain. Well, like, where was the pain?
it's just when the brand's evolving, and you're trying to figure out what you want to sell, and then once you figure out what you want to sell, right, how are we going to execute it and how are we going to roll that out? And now we're not just rolling it out to one store, but I'm rolling it out to 5 stores, or and I don't have just 15 employees to train it to, but I have 100 employees to train it to. So everything's just magnified. And in the beginning, when you don't have a huge team to help you execute that, and you're trying to drive sales, and you're trying to hire, and you're trying to train, there's just a lot going on.
Gotta build the house before you move into it.
Yeah, so we were just going fast, and that's why it took us this long to commit to franchising, because we want to make sure that we had the brand right, and we weren't doing this. We were doing this with our own stores and not franchise stores, because that's even that much harder.
So 8 months to get from 1 to 2 locations. There's 5 locations now.
It's actually 7.
7. Oh, you gotta update your LinkedIn profile, my friend. I think it was LinkedIn. Somewhere I saw it. 7 locations. That's awesome, dude. So where were you? Like, how long did it take you before you started to realize that, we gotta slow down? When did that happen?
It wasn't so much slow down. We just wanted to really drive sales. So it was more figuring out, we built these Bangobowls, fairly small footprints, like 1,000 square feet, no kitchens, no hoods, no cooks. And that was by design. We wanted to have, small build outs and, be able to scale
Low
quick.
cost.
Or if we were franchising, have low cost. So that was all by design. But once we really wanted to expand the product offering, it was right. If we're going to start cooking, how are we going to do that? Like, how are we going to execute that? And luckily through technology, we use rational ovens, which are just these amazing ovens. I call it the magic oven, because just in one chamber you can cook a steak, salmon, potatoes, eggs.
It's a combination of convection and steam. And is there a little bit of microwave going on there too, or is that something? I'm thinking of a turbojet. It's convection and steam, right?
It just changed the game. So now we're able, we saute our vegetables, and we roast our own chicken, and
it's all
cook and
programmable.
pork, and and
programmable.
Exactly. It's just a smart oven. So we program it. We have
tell you're cooking the chicken, and it knows exactly what to do.
Yeah, we have a young workforce. They're able to just come in and they'll be able to just click the button chicken, and it comes out perfect every time.
Consistency.
So once the menu evolved and the execution operationally evolved, that just took time, right? And then took time to roll out and execute.
I appraise your, what's the word, discipline to tap the brakes and to master those things before scaling, building the house, building the systems before you scale. I am curious, was your chef the one that you opened the tap room with? Is he still with you guys? He has been growing? So you had that
for 12 years.
Wow.
Yeah, we've had a lot of great influence. Taproom has definitely helped Bangobowls along the way, especially because Dave and I, were in the industry since, we were kids, and, we've had the team over there. The team was multi-unit and larger over there. So definitely helped. But, yeah, staying disciplined in the beginning. And I don't know if it was the name or the logo, but it was, it was weird that even, the first month in business, people were like, is this franchised? Like, people always thought we were like way bigger a company than we were.
Yeah.
And in those first couple of years, we got a couple hundred inquiries to open their own Bangobowls.
Wow.
And it was that was tough to say no to, because it's low hanging fruit. But we were like, we don't want to go build this fragile network because we don't really know what we're doing yet.
Yeah.
We want to really get the brand in a really, really amazing place. And we're at a point now where we're we're excited because that's where we are.
What is the brand today?
So Bango is, in that better for you movement. We like to say that it's a better choice. So we don't sacrifice, flavor. So there's some brands out there that are a little more organic and, where the food just doesn't really taste that great. So like having great tasting food was really our first priority, but just giving people a better alternative, a better choice than maybe going to eat a sandwich or a burger or fried food for lunch, where you can come and get a great salad or grain bowl or poke bowl or acai bowl or smoothie or, just some better choices.
I'm a new hire. What's the vision? What are you selling me?
So again, we're scaling through franchising, right? So we have 7 corporate stores. Right now we are not really focused on opening more corporate stores. We really want to be able to support the franchise network. So we literally got legal a couple months ago to sell franchises. So we're just kind of talking right now to our first potential franchisees. But yeah, we want to be the leading brand in the better for you bowl movement. And, with that growth, there's a lot of opportunity for our team.
Got it. So today it's you. Dave's still around. He was the other front of house guy. Your chef is still around. What's his name?
Darwin.
You have Ryan. You brought Ryan on as the CEO of Bangobowls. We're going to be talking to him later. What's your team look like? Your executive team look like?
So we have a director of operations that we are fortunate. His name is Mike. He came over. He was a VP at Moose Chris Steakhouse, and he worked for Darden. And really, as we kind of worked with Kathleen and set like a vision, which we want to open 50 tap rooms in the next 10 years. So that's what we put on paper.
50 tap rooms.
50.
Nice,
yeah.
dude. And how many Bangobowls in the next?
We're pushing towards that goal of 100.
Wow.
By putting that out into the universe, what that's really done is, we've been able to attract better talent. Right, so Mike's a guy who came to us, left some really big chains because he was excited to work with the guys that had the vision, and just he kind of came out of his mouth. I just want to work with quality guys who have a good vision and want to build a great company. So by publicly casting out your vision, we've been able to attract some better talent and GMs and even real estate. I get more opportunities for real estate because I have a lot of brokers locally knowing that we're growing. So the phone's always ringing for real estate opportunities. But we have a great team. Full-time marketing and financial analysts, and we have Jess who. She started with us bartending, and then she managed, and now she's on the corporate team. And I call her my Swiss Army knife. She's a director of operations support, but she really helps with the tech stack, and which we're proud of. And we've just for us, it's all about the team, right?
Yep.
It's really cultivating opportunity for them. But, we won't get to 50 tap rooms unless we create a lot of opportunity and just surround ourselves with some amazing people, and that's what we've been doing.
So I want to spend the rest of our free-flowing time kind of talking about, when you started surrounding yourself with these people. It sounds like post-pandemic is when you really started to push, right? Is that safe to say?
Yeah, I would say that at Taproom we had, by 2019, we had 3 locations. We had really a 4th that we were starting to look at, but it was actually Fred Langley. Ironically, he called me at the end of the fall of 2020, and he just said, "Hey, how's COVID treated you? Like, what's going on?" I said, "Well, luckily I live in Long Island and not in New York City. Like, we actually have some, parking lots and sidewalks, and the local municipalities, allowed us to set up shop outside. So we actually had a good summer, and." Our both Bango and Taproom, our brands were conducive to takeout, and we were already digitally forward. Like, all of our online ordering was already set up, integrated, ready to go, ready to handle it. So for the summer, we were all good. And I said, look, we had a great summer. Winter's probably not going to be great, but if anything, I always knew I wanted to grow, but now I've, the confidence, like, if COVID didn't stop me, like, what stopped me? Like, let's go. And the conversation with Fred was, hey, I want to scale. I always knew that, but I'm a little hung up on my name, Taproom. I think it's a little too generic to go out of market, but, half of me says it's exactly kind of what you said, like it tells you exactly what it is, and half the people out there say they absolutely love it, don't change it, just own it. And then the other half say, yeah, maybe you want to do a slight tweak. So, but anyway, that conversation led to, hey, if you really want to grow, I have someone you should speak to. So I give Fred all the credit, Fred and Gino over there at Restaurant Systems Pro, because they were the ones who introduced me to Kathleen, and she's been great for us.
Yeah. So really, you kind of scratched the surface as to how she helped. She said, focus on one thing, core focus, right? Really dive into how she helped transform. Like, who were you then? Who are you now because of her?
Yes, I would say that that was the first thing is, focus, but, also casting a vision and, getting our vision and core values down on paper. So like, we weren't just kind of growing randomly, but we're really strategic planning. So kind of going back to what I was saying, if I disappeared for a year, the team's going to be fine because one, they're all, it's a strong team, but we spend time planning out the year and really the next 3 years. So, we know where we're going, what really needs to be done. So when I kind of look back at the first year working with Kathleen, it wasn't by design, but I realized we totally changed our whole tech stack. Like, and it wasn't like, hey, what's the tech? Let's change it. It was just like, hey, what's important? Well, do we have a loyalty program? No. Okay, well, let's figure out what we want out of a loyalty program and what's out there. And then do we have the integration with the POS to support that? And the answer was no. So it's
what
like,
were you using for a POS at that time?
I was using R-Power,
okay,
which I was happy. I was happy with at the time in our earlier years. It was a good system, but as tech really started to grow, and every day something new and shiny is coming out, not having something modern enough to integrate with all that was the real challenge. So we ended up switching to Toast, which we're very happy with.
Yeah.
But it was just all those conversations like, hey, are we answering every review? Do we have a seamless recruiting and onboarding system for employees? Are we paying attention to local SEO? Or how are we communicating with our management teams?
Yeah. So we have all the processes in place for the basics of running a restaurant. But then there's all the next level systems and process that only the best do. The process for communicating with guests outside of the restaurant. Like all those extra things that we're responsible for now, like are we doing it every time?
Right.
Are we building systems around that?
And really the mindset started to be like, is this might make sense for running 3 restaurants, but is this scalable? Like is what we're doing today going to work if we have 20 stores?
So the first thing you did when you worked with Kathleen, she said, where do you want to be? Start with the end in mind.
Right.
Was that 5 years or 3 years where you want to be?
We went out 10 years and said, like, hey, and didn't necessarily have to be a location number, but that's kind of how it came with us. And we said, hey, if we can kind of work backwards and say 10 years from now,
50 Taprooms.
it was like, hey, let's open
hundreds of
50 stores, right? Like,
yeah.
So it's like, all right, well, let's work backwards and what do we have to do to get there? And then what do we need on our team right now to support the next phase of growth? And what systems do we need to focus on today, which again led to a lot of the tech. It's like, all right, let's switch this tech, let's add that tech.
So you start with 10 years and you go, okay, well, if we want to be here in 10 years, where do we need to be in 5 years to be on track for 10 years? Right. And then you say, okay, well, if we want to be there in 5 years, where do we have to be in 3 years to be on track for 5 years? Okay, if we have to be here in 3 years, where do we have to be next year? Okay, what's the next year goal then?
Right, and that's exactly what we're doing. So just having kind of that growth coach in the corner, saying, all right, like at the time it'd be like if I was opening at one location for the next year, hey, we're doing good, but we have 4 locations, 4 leases signed right now. So, and not irresponsibly, like. We've taken a lot of time to build a foundation, new store opening guides and software and, to handle all that. So if you would have asked me, years ago, can you open 2, 3, or 4 stores within the next 12 to 18 months, I would have said no. But now I could sit here confidently say, we're ready for it.
Yeah. So I'm curious, if you guys said 10 years and you reverse engineered, you got 5 years. This is in 2020. So you're at your 3rd year milestone right now. Do you remember where you would say where you would be in 3 years to be on your
Yeah,
10-year
so
track?
it wasn't so we opened 2 2 locations, but like I said, we have 4 coming on board right now. So it was, doing it responsibly and making sure, we build the foundation first before we
build the house before we move into it.
Yeah, like let's not just open stores for the sake of opening stores.
Yeah.
Like let's get, again, all those systems. Let's figure out the tech. We talk a lot about company absorption and using the example as a sponge. Like, if you just take a sponge and I dump a bucket of water over it, it's just going to roll off the sponge and nothing's going to get absorbed. So like you have to do something at a pace with the team and your hourly staff. I pour a little bit of a time, it gets absorbed. I pour a little more, it gets absorbed. So, you can't build Rome in a day. It's like, let's kind of phase things in as the team's ready. So, the last 2.5 years working with Kathleen, that's what really we've been doing is...
It's like the framing of a house, right? Like you got to put that framing up. You have the foundation, right? Because you have the concept, you have the culture, you have the people. That's your foundation. But if you're going to grow into something, you got to build almost like that next level, right? Where it's like, okay, what are we going to build this stuff on? What are we going to hammer the walls to?
Right. And really a lot of things past few years is just everything's intentional. Yeah. Like we're going to go... recruit a certain person. We're going to do it this way. We're going to, hey, this store does 4 million in sales. Great. Well, why is it not doing 5 million? Right? It's like, oh, well, originally I was satisfied with that one doing 4, but let's push it to 5. And then again, let's reverse engineer that extra million in sales and say, what are 10 levers that we can kind of just dial up to maybe get $100,000 more out of this, $200,000 more out of that. So we're just being very intentional on kind of our goals.
Yeah. So you said she helped you kind of, or you guys collectively decide that you need to help get the right people and prioritize who we need. Do you remember who was like the highest priority person first and then second?
I think bringing on full-time marketing, bringing the marketing in-house. I was using some like outside local agencies, and once we brought in marketing in-house, it really kind of changed the game because now they're really being able to dive a little bit deeper, not just doing surface level stuff, but really understanding the brand, getting to know our customer, really more strategy involved.
How did your marketing change?
I think some of the stuff we're doing now, again, like, going back to the early days where like people think posting on social media is marketing, where going back to the tech, if you order online with us, you're automatically in our marketing engine, and then we can I could, instead of taking a 20,000 person email list, let's say, and just blindly emailing 20,000 people and saying, hey, it's March and we have this corned beef burger for St. Patrick's Day, right? It's like now we can tie it with data and say, come in, order it, or order it online, and if you do, we know you do. So then we could
know you like it,
right? So now we can talk to you a different way.
Segment.
If you segment marketing. If you didn't, you can go this way. If you don't, now we're going to segment you to this path, and now we're going to give you an offer to come in and try it. So
are there drip campaigns where they enter into a funnel where there's like 5 emails like already queued up, depending on how they react to that email?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, it's just a next level kind of marketing. With some of the tech allows us to say like, all right, let's say it's National Oreo Day. So, we have fried Oreos on our appetizer. So we'll say, hey, order online tonight, spend $30, get a free order of Oreos, or it's National Pickle Day. Like we'll do stuff like that. So then, we'll see a bump in when there's tens of thousands of people that we're talking to. When we do an offer like that, we see a real bump in sales.
Yeah,
right.
Maybe you're offering something in return, but what are you going to get in exchange? So maybe you offer somebody a half off, right? But they're going to bring in likely one other person with them, right?
Yeah,
maybe 2. So you got to give a little to get more.
Yeah. So it's just being a little bit more intentional with that and trying to drive frequency.
What technology are you using with your marketing?
We're using Lunchbox with online ordering, which behind Lunchbox is customer.io. That's what allows a lot of the segment marketing. So, which again all integrates with Toast. So, we've been really happy with it. So,
what was that? A joining element to Lunchbox?
Customer.io.
Customer.io. What is that exactly?
Customer.io is basically the marketing engine behind Lunchbox. So we just it's not a separate service that we pay for, but that's what you get when you use
it's like
Lunchbox.
Email marketing side.
Email, text allows you to build out the segments.
SMS marketing
allows you to build out the automations and those like drip campaigns that you're talking about.
Got it. Okay, so we talked about the first person that you said we need to build our team. We need to get these people marketing. Who else? What was the other thing you guys were missing?
I think getting better financial visibility. So, we have a couple people on our team, some bookkeepers and financial analysts. And so, we have just one person really dedicated on forecasting, just spending a lot of effort making sure our forecasting is as accurate as possible, because that's the start of, setting labor budgets and your purchasing and all that. So forecasting became more important. Really just, we switched to period end accounting. So we have, 13 periods. So really just making sure our period ends and we have our numbers within a week. So, and just building an accounting kind of dashboard where we are tracking all different KPIs. So we can make real time, within a week, we could look at our last 4 weeks and graph out for the previous year and see kind of trends and say, hey, this is what's happening as a company. And this unit might is lagging in third-party sales, or that one is lagging in catering, or that one's blowing all the other stores away in catering. Like, are they doing anything different?
Yeah.
Right. So we're just a lot quicker in decision making, and that's based on people on the team doing a great job pulling the numbers, tracking what we want to track.
So you hired a CFO? Is that what happened? Or is this when you made the switch from Restaurant Systems Pro to Restaurant 365 as far as the back end stuff?
Yeah, which was about a year ago. So like it was just really being intentional, again, using that word, being intentional of like what matters, whether customer counts and just really paying attention, but doing it fast. So not waiting a month or a quarter to say, where are customer counts, but every 4 weeks, really looking at the data so so we can make accurate and quick decisions.
Got it. So I'm curious here, and like I'm very transparent. Like my loyalty is to the listener and to giving them the truth, right? Restaurant Systems Pro is super psyched to have them as sponsors and believe in the product. What was missing from Restaurant Systems Pro in terms of the financial stuff? Because they do have forecasting, right? Was it just
actually their forecasting is really good.
Yeah.
It was really just two things for me. It was just and these are things that are on Restaurant Systems Pro's roadmap. So, I know they're working on some things, so you never know. I might come full circle.
Yeah, they didn't just get $150 million. So,
I might come full circle and be back with them soon.
They're on their way.
Because it's a great product and like I said, a great community. But I was just looking for a restaurant-specific accounting software, and really being able to look at stuff more on an enterprise level as opposed to individual stores. So just having all my stores roll up into one P&L,
Got it.
Which again, they either were our work. For all I know, it's live right now with Restaurant Systems Pro. It's just
18. Needed it now.
Yeah. Like, hey, I have 5 stores. I'm opening 4 more. Like, I need it now. I don't need it in a year or 18 months. So
got it.
It was just that.
Yeah. Talk to us about some of the other tech stack that you guys. So you switched from. Went to Toast. You added Lunchbox. You switched to Restaurant 365 from Restaurant Systems Pro.
Yep.
What else?
We are using Wisetail for training.
Yep. How do you like them?
It's a great platform. The only thing really missing is it's not mobile friendly. If it was mobile friendly, I think they're already. Some of the best in class. There's a lot of huge brands that use Wisetail.
Yeah, what is Wisetail exactly?
So it's just an LMS where we're building out all our training in there, and with different modules and tests, and if we roll out, let's say our seasonal cocktails or something, that we'll message out all the bartenders that you have a module that is waiting for you, and you have to go finish this before you work your next shift. So it allows some communication with the staff and just training. But like I said, the only thing, and I think they're working on it, but the only thing that's really missing is, especially just, the world we live in now is everyone's at phones. The younger they are, I'm 40 and I'm addicted to my phone. The 20-year-olds are even more.
Yeah.
So I don't, at one time I was trying to push back, but now I just want to embrace it,
Right.
where I just wish it was mobile friendly.
Yeah.
That's the only thing.
Wisetail was a past sponsor on the show, and that was years ago. So I'm glad to hear they're still going strong and things are doing good. I should reach back out to them. Have you heard of One Huddle? I'm curious.
Yes,
Yeah,
I
they're
have.
right around the corner from you guys.
Yeah.
On the other side of New York and New Jersey.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of One Huddle. And then another tool I liked that was, it's funny because I demoed like all these companies, and this one happened to be the cheapest. I didn't pick it because it's the cheapest, but it was the best one. When they told me the price, I was like, you guys should charge more. But Local Clarity.
Okay.
So it just aggregates all your reviews. It's just a very nice, simple dashboard. You can go in and just, respond to all like Google reviews and Facebook reviews. So it's a little easy, quick one, but makes a difference.
So before we start peering into the future, we talk about, that's one thing I like to do. We talk about where you came from, where you are today, and we talk about where you're going and how you're looking to evolve to be ready for the future. Anything that we haven't unpackaged as far as where you are today, big lessons, big pivotal evolutionary points for you, or roadblocks and how you got past those roadblocks?
We have some seasonal restaurants that were town contracts that, we had to go up and, bid. I think there's like 20 different hospitality companies at the time. This is going back, I think 2017. So
you have the Taproom, you have Bangobowls, and you also manage seasonal.
Yeah, we have
venues.
4 seasonal restaurants Long Island, waterfront. 2 are more like music venue, like large music venues, and one's a full service seafood restaurant. But it's funny because Scotty comes back into play. It was just full circle. It was 2017. We just had a couple Taprooms, a couple Bangobowls. We were going against much larger hospitality companies. These are very sought after locations. Because they're high volume, they're on the water. You didn't have to buy them, you won them. And talking to Scotty and his partners at the original seasonal restaurant Dave and I worked at, we just asked him, said, "Hey, are you guys going after these seasonal restaurants?" And he's like, "Oh yeah, we're definitely on it." And I was like, "Well, do you want to partner up? Like, you might need help, and we'll Dave and I are here to help." And again, we're fielding multiple kind of offers from people wanting to partner with them. And again, they chose, they chose us. So it kind of just goes back to what I was saying before, the character and the work ethic.
Of course. I love that, dude. So I am curious, you were Upstream Hospitality Group first, right? So none of your businesses are named Upstream. That's
Correct.
A holding company.
Correct.
Did you know to do that from the very beginning, or was that something you had to build later?
I built it later. It was just as kind of the different brands are evolving, and there was different partner here, different partner there, and different brands. It just really came after.
Yeah, I think that's something we don't talk enough about, is like how to structure your business to protect your assets.
Yep.
So can you give us any advice on how you set that up and what you would do differently, if anything?
Yeah, I think right now growing them as LLCs. In the beginning, I incorporated S corp, so it kind of got.
Why did you choose S corps?
I just at the time, I was a kid and didn't really know.
It sounds cooler than LLC.
Yeah.
I'm a corporation.
But you have a little bit more flexibility with LLCs, with if you have an investor or partners and with dividends and whatnot. So, right now we're building on LLCs, but, have one or two that are still an S corp. It's just a lot of undoing to change it. So I just haven't, really bit the bullet to spend the time to do it. So, if I was doing it over again, I would have started and just done LLCs from the get-go.
So Upstream is the holding company. Is that the correct term?
Yeah, sure.
Underneath that, you have Bangobowls.
Yep.
You have the Taproom.
Correct.
What else is there?
And then there's the 4 seasonal restaurants.
And is that each one of those restaurants its own? Because you don't own do you own the business, or are you managing partner?
So we own the business, but it's on town property.
Got it.
So they're, unique.
Town owns the asset. The building,
exactly.
but you own the business.
Right.
Got it.
Right. So, but But so that's, that we're not really scaling. Like I said, we're focused on scaling Taproom and growing Bangobowls through franchising.
Got it. So one thing that did come out, I just kind of want to reinforce what you did here, is just starting small and testing concepts. If you have a window attached to your, like, I know this one place in Germantown Cafe in Nashville, right? If you have a way to side hustle concepts out of your location, what's cool today is I think you can start a brand as a ghost kitchen.
Exactly.
I don't know if I like the idea of just like running like 10 or 12 different ghost kitchens out of your kitchen. I feel like that kind of gets a little, again, back to what Kathleen says, focus, like focus on doing one thing really well. But at the same time, if you're looking to scale and you have the ability to test the market, you can test with just developing a brand online and seeing if it has traction, right? And if it does have traction, then you can, okay, let's move this to a 300 square foot space and have it have its own thing.
Right. And then if it's that successful, maybe a brick and mortar, maybe a multi-unit.
Exactly. And I just wanted to reinforce that idea of just testing something. And if you have the ability, if you have an asset, a vacant space or whatever, just try that out. Start small. And if it doesn't catch traction, then try something else there until something does.
I've given that advice to so many people, even, employees of mine. And I was like, in this day and age, you can go find a kitchen very cheap. You go find like a local, like Knights of Columbus or something that, they could probably rent out your kitchen for $200 and just create an online brand and test that way and see if people like it. And just, you don't have to go spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars building out, a big restaurant. You could probably do it for under $1,000.
I would say if you're a restaurateur and you have this asset and you have young people working for you who could be like you were to Scott, like have them test that out online. Encourage them to start their own concept in your restaurant, and let them have fun with it. Obviously, you got to find a balance, right? You can't have them do a whole giant menu on top of what you're already doing, but you can start small, and you can I don't know. There's so many things you can do.
So many things.
There's so much flexibility with technology today.
It really is, and those are some conversations that we're having. A couple people,
I love that,
couple people on our team that aspire to really grow.
I love that too. So, what is in your opinion? What's the evolution of the industry? If we're doing another 10-year projection, like you did with Kathleen a few years ago, and you're thinking about where's the industry going to be, how do we evolve for the future of the industry? What are you doing?
Yeah, I think obviously technology is probably the popular answer. It's just like, really looking how it changes what we're doing. Obviously AI right now is a hot topic, and how does AI change what we're doing, right? There's a lot of services right now that are just mind-boggling, whether the AI is answering your phone, placing all your phone orders for you, or helping with order accuracy, where they're just tracking, or even I think we're a few years away, but a lot of the robots, right, like the flippy and the frying and
miso
the
robotics,
pizza ones, and miso has all these things that you see at the conferences.
It's like a car assembly line in your kitchen.
Yeah, so it's if automobiles can be made that way, like I don't see it not happening. So like I really think the tech and the AI is just going to keep.
Are you using
evolving.
AI right now?
Some of the different tools, like that Local Clarity, like they have an AI responder. So like if you review on Facebook, like they can they can kind of look at what you wrote and auto respond, and then send it to you and say, do you like the way I responded to this? So like there are tools like that are just starting to come on. Obviously I think ChatGPT and we're definitely exploring using chat.
How would you use that as a restaurateur?
So just some real life examples. I had to write a letter of recommendation for an employee. I typed in all the bullet points of this person, and it just spit out a perfect letter for me. My marketing guy said, hey, I need a 3-minute marketing video. I want you to storyboard. I want to create a recruiting video to hire new employees. And what I want to do is I want to have 3 testimonials from current employees. And I want to, and we just told it what it wanted. And it was wild. It just
gave you the framing.
It said, pan a busy restaurant. Narrator, say this. employee 1, say that. Employee 2, narrator, now say this. And it just like spit out like a perfect storyboard of this great recruiting video.
That's crazy.
You know, so it's just.
I finally cracked and I downloaded ChatGPT the other day. The first thing I asked it was, what's the #1 restaurant podcast?
Yeah. No, sweet. Congrats.
So it is smart.
Yeah, it really is. You know, going to the Upstream mentality and being in personal development, like I wanted to build out this personal development course that my employees could really dive in. And I just typed in, I said, look, I want to build this, 12 chapter course. And these are the books I've read that have really impacted, influenced my life. And this is how I want the course to flow and blah, blah, blah. And I just typed it in. And in an hour, it spit out like amazing content.
That's crazy, man.
Right? So
it's weird, man. Like it's like, how do you find that balance of taking the path of least resistance? Because I hear what you're saying. I think those are great use cases. But at the same time, it's like, is everything, or is that we're going in this direction where we're not going to be able to tell when people are just having like AI do their work for them?
No doubt.
Like I kind of want to know when something's coming from a person.
I don't disagree. It's cool and scary at the same time.
It's like you got to dive in there and try to figure it out, because if you don't, then you're not going to have the bandwidth, I feel like, to keep up.
Yeah.
You got to use these tools. And I actually listened to this really great self-progress, or not progress, what's the word?
Self-proclaimed?
Proclaimed, thank you very much. Self-proclaimed, or I don't even know if that's the word. I'm confessing that I'm a huge Joe Rogan fan. Like, I get a lot of inspiration for what I do. I try to have an open mind and hear different perspectives. But he interviewed this person the other day. He worked for like Dell or something like that. I can't remember who he is, but he's like an expert in AI, and it was fascinating. But the point that they try to make, this is a tool, and it should be used as a tool. Right. It's not going to take over the world, but it's going to give people a competitive advantage if they know how to use it. And I think you're giving us great examples of how we can use it today, just for inspiration. If you need a launching point, like it can help you kind of prime the engine to get started, and you fill in the blanks.
Exactly.
But what's cool is that like now, like this guy was talking about his son who's 8 years old, and he's like, I got my son on this at 8 years old, and I'm teaching him now how to use it, because you got to keep in mind the thing that we're not considering with AI is that AI is only going to improve with time, and that your account is also going to grow with you and evolve with you, and it's going to learn you. So we basically all essentially have a virtual assistant right now, if we know how to use it. That's going to evolve with us as we grow into human beings. So it's going to be able to tailor the responses to its master.
Yeah, it's like the more you dive into it, it's just the crazier.
Yeah.
Usually it's like, the opportunity and what's really around the corner.
It's like having your own HAL.
Yeah. It's
like, and that's where we are. Do you know what the reference of HAL? Of that computer, the AI, the Space Odyssey, I think is what it was.
Yeah.
It's like that.
Yeah, it's, I think you hit the nail on the head. Like, you got to use it as a tool.
Yeah.
And just understand how, it can maybe help you do something a little bit more efficient or faster, or maybe spark an idea for you. Like, maybe you weren't thinking of that, but, hey, that's a great idea. Let me go that direction.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and you're using AI, I would love to put together a list of how people are leveraging this tool, because I think it's just a matter of people getting out there and trying different things. But I would like to be able to pay that information forward. So this is a new territory for me. I'm using AI, honestly, like in my business. I'm using it to edit this video.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go home. I'm going to put the audio track on one, the video track on another, 2 video tracks. I'm going to tell the AI who's on what track. And then a 2-hour-long conversation is going to be edited in 15 seconds.
Amazing.
I still have to go in and put all the After Effects and do all that stuff.
Yep.
But the camera angles, the chopping of the camera angles, that's the time-consuming thing. It's just like this thing. You just got to tell it when to switch. But that's all automated now. I just saved myself 2 hours an episode. Like, I'd be stupid not to use that.
Exactly.
How else am I using it?
Yeah, there's a lot of
yeah,
it's just time saving. Like, there's so much things you could do to save time.
Right. So mission statement is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. When I say transform the industry, if we can move into the industry intentionally, like this is where we are, and this is where we should be and could be if we were less reactive and more proactive as a collective, as an industry moving into the future. What do you think needs to change?
I think, some of the economics have been imbalanced, like.
What do you mean?
Just wage-wise, right? Which is kind of COVID kind of changed a little bit. Like, I think the back of the house was never really getting their fair share for a long time. So, I look now at kind of what we're paying our cooks and guys in the back of the house, and they deserve every penny of that. I mean, these guys are great guys, really, really hardworking guys. But then it's just trying to figure out, from an owner's perspective, the economics of, having to afford that and pay them, 20, 30, 40% more than they were. So
what has to happen for us to do that?
I don't think I have the crystal ball answer, or else that would have been changed. I know there's people in the industry who've explored no tipping, or sharing tips with the back of the house. Maybe that's more of an option. But yeah, I mean, I think right now the wages have increased in the back. And then, it's just with inflation, pricing has kind of creeped up. So, I just think it's kind of the market we're in right now.
Yeah, I think the market kind of has to change. That's one thing that I like to preach. I think we as restaurant owners or restaurant operators would have to educate the consumer and say, listen, like, we want to be able to provide security to our people, just like you want to be able to go to work and have security. I guarantee you the people that are working with me don't work any less hard than you.
Sure.
And I think that we should be able to provide them that security. And guess what? That means you're going to have to spend more for your food. And guess what? Spend less on something else. Because there's a lot of shit that people have today that we don't need. And it's just it's a value set. It's like, where are your values? Should the people that live in your community all have security? Yeah? Is that too much to ask? Give up some subscriptions.
Yeah.
Like, where is your money going? Do you have a new pair of shoes every month? Like, where is your money going? Like, your personal, I don't know, like ego and just
how many Amazon boxes do people get on their doorstep?
That's what I'm saying, man. It's just like, I think at the end of the day, there needs to be a cultural shift, and I think that the restaurant industry is leading the fucking way. Pardon my language.
I mean, I would say I think it's happening. Like, I think we're in the middle of it right now. Like, coming out of COVID, like I said, I think the back of the house is finally getting theirs. If you want to say, and I think, some people could perceive higher menu prices as really just, the supply chain and food, which definitely played a part. But I think now we're just seeing it settling that, those wage increases are here and here to stay, and they should be, because those men and women deserve every dollar they're making.
Exactly. Because you as the restaurant owner can't make it appear out of thin air.
Exactly.
It has to come from somewhere, and I think it comes from a cultural shift. I also think it comes down to the shift in using AI to help take up some of the human bandwidth to absorb that, so you can have humans doing human things, and also a shift in business model, where I think you're going to see more and more people lean on technology in general for the front of house, for the things that are just like making a drink, right? Doesn't mean a human can't deliver it and take the order and engage with you and create a good experience, but you can automate drink making.
Or like, for example, like the AI phone answering, right?
Exactly.
So like that's one less employee that you need, which lowers your labor costs. So like
current sponsor, Reachify.
There you go.
Yeah.
So you know what I mean? Like it just allows you to have less people with the same or higher labor spend, which means your employees can make more money. Right, so like that's an example of an efficient tool where you should be able to reallocate those dollars to give wage increases to the people working for you.
So I think it's gonna be a compounding effect. Anything we have not discussed today that you're hoping would come out of today's conversation? I think you told me a couple things earlier on. Did I forget to bring those to the surface before we got started?
No, I think you hit it. I think both brands we're really excited for. We're at a really good spot. With a lot of growth around the corner, and just same industry. Like I said, we're it's in my blood. I love it. I'm glad this was the path that I ended up on, for sure.
So one more question before the speed round. The mission statement is to inspire, empower, and transform the industry. But I believe behind every great restaurant is a great person and great people. How have you personally transformed? Who is James today versus James back in 2000? What was it? 11?
11.
When you were just a first-time owner.
Yeah, I'll say that. I'd say just growing as a leader. Like I take a lot of pride. I think there's like 700 or 800 employee count now. So
wow.
Thanks. Yeah, I take a lot of pride that the decisions I'm making on a day-to-day basis is, it's not just affecting me and my family, but it's affecting, an army of people.
Yeah.
And I don't take that lightly. So, I love being able to create opportunity for different people and some people looking for different things, which it took me time to learn. Like, I have people who are saying, I would love to be a GM for you for the rest of my life. Like, that's what I'm excited to do. I have people who are like, I want to learn how to open a restaurant, and will you help me open a restaurant?
Guess who's going to be front and center in all the openings?
Yeah,
that person. Right?
Exactly. So, I have people who have left some really great corporate jobs, like, with the New York Yankees, for example. Great job, corporate chef in Yankee Stadium. And they're like, but that's not my, life goal. My life goal is to be a restaurant owner and own multiple restaurants. I'm like, well, I can't teach you how to be an amazing chef in the New York Yankees, but I could teach you how to open restaurants.
Yeah.
Because that's what I do.
I love it.
So, I take, just let them pride in carrying that weight.
I love that, dude. Okay, one more quick break to thank our sponsors, and we'll be back to bust out a speed round.
We have to interrupt today's video to let you know that right now, Restaurant Systems Pro is offering a no strings attached 60-day trial that will help you improve your systems, increase your profit, and find better work-life balance. All you have to do is click the link below.
We're back, and the first question I have for you is, what is your it factor? A habit, a trait, a characteristic you believe most contributes to your success, like a strength?
Sure. I would say I am extremely even-tempered. Nothing rattles me.
That's a good one. What's your biggest weakness?
I would say organization.
Yeah, I feel that, man. What is one question you ask or thing you look for during your interview process? When you're growing your team, when you're surrounding yourself with new people, what are you looking for?
Sure. Really, their why, what drives them.
And what why do you like to see?
Really just that, they take pride in their work, and I think half of life is just showing up, right? And I think, again, going back to the downstream, I think too many people just kind of go downstream. So I'm looking for the person who, wants to show up and they want to go upstream.
They're in their donut floating, lazy river.
Whatever role they're coming in, they have a strong why of this is why I put in that extra effort. This is why I go upstream.
I like that. So you're just looking to make sure they are willing to swim against the current.
Yeah, because anything could be taught.
What's your biggest challenge today?
I would say we're just in the phase of growth of funding, right? So it's we have some rapid growth coming. The equity versus debt conversation. How are we going to do it? Everything is, going great, but we don't necessarily want to give up equity right now.
Yeah.
So just funding.
There's another company that's recently on my radar called Homegrown, who recently reached out to me, but they help restaurants go from 3, 5 or more. They specifically help scale from multiple units to 10 or more.
That's right where we are.
Yeah, and that's why I'm thinking of you. So
cool.
They're newer though, so I mean,
right.
I can't vouch for them yet. But I'm very interested because I think it's so important that small businesses get access to money, man. So when I hear about these companies sprouting up all over the place, it's a good sign for the future. What is one code of conduct or behavior you teach your team?
So one of our core values is teamwork.
Okay.
Right. So we're Taproom is just a brand where we just really foster everyone working together. That might mean that one server's busting another server's table or running a drink for them or covering our shift. We're really trying to create that one team mentality.
I love it. What is one uncommon standard of service you teach your team? So not a core value, not a way to be, but a way to go above and beyond wow, I can't speak today. A way to go above and beyond what's expected from the guest.
Yeah, so being a place that offers, a lot of craft beer, and, there's a lot of opportunity for people to try something they initially haven't tried before. So, we tell the team, before someone maybe orders a beer and has a bad experience because they didn't like it, or they kind of choose something safe, just offer up a sample. We're here for them to explore and have a great experience. So
take the risk out of it.
Yeah, we're just open for them to explore and have a good time.
What's one book that's a must read to make us a better person or restaurant owner? We already have Rich Dad Poor Dad on our list. What else you got for us?
Some necessarily think it just applies to just restaurant owners, but Richest Man in Babylon is a real easy read. I think it's like under 100 pages, but just a lot of good principles in there.
What was the biggest takeaway for you
in that book?
Yeah.
I think one thing that has really helped me along the way is living below your means. I think a lot of people are, living on credit or they open their first business, they start making money, their lifestyle instantly increases to that level of income they just started making. And we kind of stayed very disciplined, and we're like, we're going to live on 50% of our income. And then it grew, all right, we're going to live on 30% of our income. And we just allowed kind of that extra money to be able to help us, roll into more opportunities and open up more stores and develop another brand. So, that was one of the principles in that book, but kind of that delayed gratification.
Got it. That's a great lesson there. Is that one on Audible? Oh, I'm curious.
It has to be.
I'm still pitching my Audible affiliate link, but if you guys have not signed up for Audible yet, as a busy restaurant owner, like, it's a game changer. I mean, I'm on the road constantly. I would not read or listen to nearly as many books if I didn't have it on tape.
Sure.
So audibletrial.com/unstoppable. If you're not listening to audiobooks, it will change your life. What is one thing you feel restaurateurs don't do well enough or often enough?
I would say really look at the numbers and know their numbers, especially the smaller guys, single unit or just a couple of units. When you're kind of wearing every hat and you don't have a big team and you're the marketer and you're hiring, you're firing and you're scheduling and you're doing the bookkeeping, it's hard to really know your numbers, but that is, the most important thing in your business. So I think people should really put more energy and focus into that.
Okay, we talked a lot about technology today, but if you can reinforce anything, what is one piece of technology you've recently adopted that's had a huge impact on communication, efficiency, profitability, anything along those lines?
So I wouldn't say recently adopted because we've been using it for years, but one thing I didn't mention, which is free, that if, I'm telling someone, hey, if there's one thing, you have multi-units, you got a lot of managers going on, is use Slack for communication. I mean, yeah, we it's easy. You can get a free version, but we have our brands, and then we have each store has like a few channels, whether it's like staffing for this or a general channel or maintenance or catering, and just all that communication is done within that Slack channel as opposed to a group text, because in a group text we're texting about one thing, we forgot to add that assistant manager, and then 3 hours later we're talking about something else, and a week later we're trying to go back to that original conversation.
It doesn't get lost.
Like, you can't search it, you can't attach files in group text. So I'm a huge supporter of Slack.
I'm curious, what are your different channels? Like, what are common restaurant channels?
Sure. So each store has a general channel.
Okay. Are you opening up your Slack account right now?
Yeah, I'm gonna.
Oh man, this is good.
General. Like I said, catering. So we use a third-party software, Triple Seat, for catering, but which is team communication in there. But we have we use Zapier to kind of direct link some things right into the catering channel because it's easier, quicker. It's an app on our phone as opposed to logging into Triple Seat. There's things we do with Slack. Like, let's say a team, a store needs maybe a graphic done. Instead of what used to happen was a manager would try to speak to the marketing director, and one person would email, one would talk in person, one would text, right? Like, he felt like he was getting arrows.
He feels like every restaurant owner who's getting a review on their restaurant. Right?
It's just, there's like, it's like everywhere I turn, there's like a different method of communication.
Yeah.
So we also use ClickUp as a team project management and in the back office. So he just built a form on there and he pinned it right in our Slack channel. So now if anyone ever needs, and we do this with catering inquiries. So if there's just a link right at the hostess stand, that someone could scan, and if someone walks in and says, hey, I want to have a party, the hostess could just type in there, and then it automatically goes into our system, as opposed to the post-it note that's left by the phone.
So you're standardizing the flow of communication.
Right, and Slack really allows us to do that.
I love that. Great tool. Very great specifics. Thank you very much. Okay, this is the last question. It's a doozy, so get ready for it. If you got the news, you'd be leaving this world tomorrow. All the memories of you, your work, and your restaurants would be lost. with your departure, with the exception of 3 pieces of wisdom that you could leave behind for the good of humanity and for your legacy, what would those 3 pieces of wisdom be?
Wow, it's a deep question that I would love to, have a little more time to think about.
Do you have kids?
I do. I
like to say, pretend that you're talking to your kids. There's 3 things that you can leave behind.
Okay, same thing, same response. Deep question I'd like to think about, but I would just say, I'm a big believer in just gaining confidence. So whatever my children or employees have to do to just be confident, because I feel like a confident person in whatever they're doing has a much chance of success than someone who's kind of like
timid.
Yeah, exactly.
Have confidence, number 1.
Have confidence. I would say don't let money stop, your dreams, right? Like there's other things you could bring to the table, whether it's expertise or work, but I think so many people limit themselves because they're like, oh, I have a dream to open a restaurant or do X, but I'll never have the money for that.
Right. That's why I started a podcast, because I wanted to open a restaurant. I was like, I'll never have the money for that, but I can start a podcast today.
Right. And then if growing a brand is something that person wants to do, and they figured out how to get the money, is just going back to learn how to delegate. You will never grow. Like if you never let go or learn how to delegate, you will never grow.
Takes an army.
Yeah.
James, I've loved today's conversation, man. This is episode 1017. If you enjoyed today's episode, you can go check out 1017. We'll have a summary of today's discussion. Also, lots of tools mentioned today. We'll try to link back to all those tools. Some of the tools mentioned today are past sponsors or affiliates. I do want to give a reminder, Restaurant Systems Pro, current sponsor, helped you get this far, helped you get to this point.
Absolutely.
I think it is an amazing way to instantly overnight systematize your business. You also mentioned Kathleen Wood, who is another affiliate, believe it or not. And she has done so much to turn good companies into amazing companies.
She's helped a bunch of companies go from pretty small to very large companies, and I can't speak more highly than anyone I've ever worked with. So she's been great.
If you're interested in working with those companies, do check out the show notes so we can get credit for sending people their way. It helps support the show unbelievably. You have no idea how much that helps us. And before we say goodbye, who do you respect and admire? Somebody that if you found out they were a guest in this podcast and they spilled their guts just like you spilled your guts today, you'd be like, I want to listen to what they had to say.
I gotta say my partner, I really respect my partner Ryan Thorman, and I would really excited to have him.
Yeah, he's on deck. Man.
Have him on the podcast. Yeah,
I can't wait to get him on.
I don't
have to wait long because he's sitting right here, ready to go. So
I can't wait for it.
Awesome. Again, restaurantunstoppable.com/1017. Thank you, James, so much for taking the time to share your story, to share your knowledge, your mentorship, and your inspiration. There is no questioning. You are unstoppable.
Thanks, Eric.
Cheers.